I'm Demented Chucky Bates, and this is Drinkin at Mo's. Ha ha ha!
This is Drinkin at Mo's, where we talk about the pros of pro wrestling in the Midwest while sipping on some brews with blessed beers and wrestling. That's my scene. Death matches and lucha libre, it's also mean. I'm a straight up smart goofball, not no kiss ass. I stand tall when it comes to wrestling. I'm the king. I know every move, every fling. Get ready for a wild time with Drinkin at Mo's, where we don't quit. Drinkin at Mo's, that's where it's at. Like a power bomb, we hit hard, never flat. Fucking right, we're living the dream. Talking about wrestling, always a scream.
You know, I've always said here at Drinkinatmos, just because it says drinking at Mo's does not mean it has to be alcoholic. So I'm happy to say Drinkin' at Mo's is sponsored by Prince Nana Coffee. The exact same guy you see every week on Dynamite, on Collision. Yes, he has his own coffee, and it's freaking delicious. They don't even roast those beans until you've placed your order. And you might be telling me, hey, Big Mo, I'm more of a tea guy. They got you covered there too. Use the referral link in the description of this video. And let's get you dancing like Prince Nana with Prince Nana Coffee. All right, everybody. Welcome Drinking at Mo's. Big Mo here. You know the drill by now. YouTube likes, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff, because YouTube's algorithm continues to be a pain in the ass. We are most places. It is. We're most places you can find audio podcasts too. Today, I'm excited to have with me Chucky Bates. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Oh, I can't complain. You know, some cool stuff coming up podcast wise. I don't want to go into too many details yet because nothing's ironed out, but some pretty cool potential sponsors coming up. So I'm
sponsors.
Oh yeah. I mean, hell, I already got Prince Nana Coffee.
Oh no, no way, no way.
Yeah. That one came up. It was rather funny because, you never know when people of the stature of Prince Nana, when, on social media, when they're going to answer because, they're so busy.
Yeah.
Well, I just made the comment on Twitter that's like, man, I want my podcast to be sponsored by Prince Nana Coffee. And then all of a sudden, that next morning, I get an alert that says that he had quote tweeted it. And he's like, let's make it happen. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, you gotta love it when that stuff works out.
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. And their AEW is actually coming to Omaha, where I'm from, middle next month. So who knows? Maybe I'll actually run into the big guy himself. So
yeah,
that'll be fun. So before we get into too big of a tangent there, thing I like to lead off with everybody with when they first come on the show, what got you started as a fan, and then what got you deciding to make that leap into the business?
Okay, so that's a bit of a story, if you'll allow me.
Oh, by all means.
All right, so first and foremost, my dad, he was not a wrestling fan. He was a fan of a lot of things. He taught me how to play catch, how to play baseball as soon as I was able to pick up a baseball. The only sport I really knew how to do was baseball for a good chunk of my life. I mean, he got me going on all sorts of sports, but I didn't even know wrestling existed other than the amateur stuff you would see in high school. I didn't even know any of that existed until much later. So, like, my dad had me going on all these sports from tennis to swimming to football, basketball, specifically baseball. He was a pitcher on his home team. But yeah, that was basically it. And we sadly lost him in 2012, and my passion for baseball kind of dwindled afterwards. I didn't really know what to do. And like some people, when it comes to loving wrestling, they find it through action figures. I'm no different. I
Mm, one
back in
T.
the day, like 2011, just before 2012, there were these tiny action figures, no bigger than the palm of your hand, and they called them WWE Rumblers. I was a big
Mm.
fan of very miniature action figures at the time, and those just spoke to me. I started collecting them, and then because I was so young at the time, when I would be playing with them, my older family members would look at them and just be like, "Oh, is that John Cena?" I'm like, "You actually know the name of these guys? I thought they were just figures." And then my uncle from my mom's side, he was actually a long going wrestling fan. He watched wrestling all the way back from Baron von Rasch and the Crusher specifically. And then just a few short months later, he took me to my first wrestling show, and I got to see a whole bunch of legends that I've never seen before. I didn't even know who they were at the time. And looking back on it, it was just the coolest experience. I
I
got to see guys like Demolition, Axe and Smash were in action. I got to watch the Hacksaw Jim Duggan work a match with his trusty 2x4, which was awesome.
I
Uh,
got to meet him once.
oh yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah,
was fun.
yeah. I if memory serves me right, my cousin got a action figure of the Hacksaw that night, and then got it signed by the guy. Um, Other than that, there was also Rikishi and Too Cool, Funaki, and I got to take a photo in the ring with Big Diesel, Kevin Nash.
Nice.
Yeah, again, I did not know who they were. I was just like, oh, these are a bunch of old guys. I don't know who these guys are. I only know the guys that are on TV now, like John Cena and Rey Mysterio. But oh boy, was I wrong. These were some pretty big stars of their time. And
Oh,
looking back on it, is just the coolest experience. And that's
oh
what got
yeah.
me started. I got to touch the ropes and actually step in the ring to take that photo with Kevin Nash. And I was already like, ooh, this is kind of intimidating, but I also kind of like it. I don't know what to think. And then a couple of years later, my mom, she knew how much I loved wrestling, and she surprised me in the best way possible. She just pulled me away from the TV. I was playing some sort of video game, and my brother and I were playing video games, and she was like, "We're gonna go to a band concert tonight," and I'm like, "I don't want to go to a band concert," but she, like makes us go with her as she did at the time. And next thing you know, she's driving us to the Bradley Center in central Milwaukee, and next thing you know, I'm seeing all the banners and it says SmackDown, and I'm just going, no way, absolutely no way. And sure enough, I got to watch my first WWE event, and it was awesome. This was like the SmackDown right after the Ferrari got smashed by Brock Lesnar.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, it was a good one. It was a really good one. And after that moment, I knew I wanted to give this a shot, but I didn't know if there were any schools. So I waited a few more years before my, once again, my mom actually said, if you want to do this so badly, why don't you just look up and see if there's a school nearby? And because at the time I was kind of lazy, if I'm being honest. But at the time I was like, I guarantee you there's no schools here in Wisconsin, not even here in Milwaukee. And I look up on my phone and I go, oh, there's one in Cudahy, just like 15 minutes away. Let's go.
Yeah.
And that was Frankie DeFalco's school for the Thumper's Den Wrestling Academy under Brew City Wrestling.
Mm.
And here I am 8 years later. As soon as I got in there, I got hooked. I saw everything they were doing. I was intimidated. It was scary to watch them run the ropes. It was scary to watch them wrestle short matches in there, but as soon as got in there, I fell in love with the sport. I could not stop. And 8 years later, I'm still going.
Oh yeah. I can imagine the couple of times that I've even just gotten an entrance for different reasons at a couple shows. It's like from the first one, I just it's it's addicting. You get it, you want more.
Is
And it's funny you brought up the whole thing with the action figures. You probably can't see up top. You can kind
no, but I can see some of the stuff you got.
of, but you talked about some of the people that you saw at your first show. I actually got lucky at a Comic Con here in the area where a couple of years ago they had one of the people that was on my first WWE show I ever went to way back when I was like in third grade. And well, up top, most of the figures I have up there are all signed. Well, the one that I got signed by the guy on my first show, Rikishi as Head Shrinker Fatu.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was awesome, and getting to tell him about him being in my first ever show when I was, like I said, third grade, and I got him as a Christmas present. And we get there, and me thinking, not thinking, how close we're gonna be or whatever. And then all of a sudden, my dad starts leading me down to the main floor, and I'm like, oh, and we're like, maybe I'd say between 5 and 10 rows from the ring, and then like a few seats over from the entrance. And I'm
Yeah.
getting to see that guy walk by me. And then one of my other personal favorites, God rest his soul, the Big Boss Man. I got to see him wrestle up against, again, God rest his soul, Yokozuna. And
Yeah.
me being a tiny third grader, watching those two huge mountains of men walking by me.
Yeah, I gotta say that's one heck of a match to watch in person. Two greats of the business, Yokozuna and the Big Boss Man. I don't think I can even imagine that match going down.
Oh man, my first ever piece of WWE merch from a show was one of the foam nightsticks. I don't know if I still got it, but I remember that like it happened yesterday.
They were all about merchandise back then.
Oh, that they were.
Yeah.
Well,
Speaking
so
of Rikishi, I don't know if I mentioned him. Uh, I can't remember if I did or didn't about that first show that I went to, but Rikishi and Too Cool were also in action at that first event I ever went to.
you did mention about them being there. Yeah.
Yeah, they were the main event of that show, which
Nice.
which was hilarious. I'd never seen Rikishi, and watching him pull off the stink face was like the funniest thing on the planet.
Oh man. That's something else. Like I've met two-thirds of Too Cool. I've met obviously Rikishi. I met Scotty Too Hottie a while back, but unfortunately never did get to meet Grandmaster Sexay.
Yeah, he was entertaining. I mean, it's hard to remember too much about him alongside, guys like Scotty 2 Hotty who had the worm. But Grandmaster Sexay, he still had a lot of good moves even in his old age. Like when I watched him at that show, he was moving like a cruiserweight and
Mm,
he was just as good as Scotty. And it makes me sad to know, like only Rikishi and Scotty are mainly the two that everyone remembers. But
yeah.
Brian, he yeah, he had more to him than some people let on.
Oh yeah. No, but I can definitely agree with you there. Now, one thing that I do enjoy talking about with people is, I get that, sometimes the first little bits of a career can be a bit of a feeling out process with getting, what parts of, an in-ring character are going to stick here and how that's going to work. But
Yeah.
how did you come up with yours? Because from what I've been able to see, intense and very entertaining. I love it.
Appreciate that. I very much appreciate that. I put a lot of thought and process into my character, and it was, I think the best way to describe it was the first time I broke it out, which was on a certain training day. So Frankie DeFalco was not just my only trainer. I also got training from Milwaukee's legendary Angel Armani. He also helped to train me, and I can't mention training without mentioning him because he's very greatly responsible for most of my in-ring capability, and that's the Beer City Bruiser from Ring of Honor.
I've had him on.
Yeah, he him and Frank both trained me simultaneously. Frank was the one that taught us, all the ring psychology and everything. And Matt, being the guy who was on TV, he would bring all of his stuff from TV to help us train. And he would also step in the ring and show us the ropes and everything that Frank couldn't. But yeah, Matt was very instrumental of where I'm at now. And this just goes to show you because when he first had me work as a heel, which it was so intimidating for me. I was just barely learning how to put a headlock on, and he's like, "Let's do this drill. Headlock, shoot off, tackle, something, something, something." But he's like, "I want you guys to focus on faces and heels." And I thought I was going to get put in there as a face because that's what he does with all the new guys. But he decides to put me in there as a heel. He's like, "All right, Vince, you go in there and you be a heel. I don't care how, just give me a heel." And I was like, "Oh boy, I don't know what to do." And I lock up with whoever I was locking up with. I put a headlock on him, and just in the back of my mind, I just started thinking about Gotham because I've always been a big Batman fan, and at the time I had just started watching the TV show Gotham. Still a
Mm.
great show in my opinion. Uh, it's held back by some of its weaker points. But basically, the episode I was thinking of was just this episode where they showed their version of the Joker, and it ends with like the whole city laughing almost to death. And I was just like, okay, let's work with that. I put the headlock on the guy and I just start going, I got you, I got you. And Matt just goes, stop, stop, stop. Do that again. I want to see you do that again and be louder. And then I did it. And he was like, we got your character. We know exactly what you're gonna do now. And for the next week, I was just thinking, what am I gonna do? What if I come out with a straight jacket? What if I spike my hair up and I look like I just got out of the electric chair or something? And then sure enough, when I go into camp the next week, Matt looks at me. He's like, "Hey, Chucky, you ever think about uh, putting on a straight jacket and spiking your hair?" I'm like, "Well, I guess it can't be my idea, but okay." He didn't call me Chucky. He was calling me Vince back then, and he was also responsible for the name because I just remember I was running laps outside. Him and Frank were smoking a cigar or something, and as soon as we finish our laps, Matt looks at me and he goes, "What if we call you Demented Chucky Bates?" And I looked at him and I was like, "I'm gonna be laughed out of the freaking state." and, and 8 years later, I'm still using it. I don't see myself ever wrestling without it because it's instrumental for me. I love using it. I love the name. It's different and it kind of puts everybody at, what's the word I'm looking for? A sense of unease, or almost puts them in a sense of, oh, Chucky Bates, that's a weird name. And then they see me come out. It's like, what the heck is that?
And that's the thing that I love when people like you. Words are hard right now, but when you have people that you're always wanting to, especially independent wrestling, especially, but all over in professional wrestling, you're wanting to grab people's attention, and when you get people doing that,
Yeah.
that is perfect. You're getting them hooked. They're just like, that's crazy. And then you get people like me, they're like, yeah, that's crazy, but I love it.
Yep. And the best part about it is just whenever I am heel, I love scaring kids because they're terrified of me. I mean, if I'm ever walking out there, I've got all this. This wasn't what I did back then, but now I've got all this black, red, and green paint all over my face, like as if I like missed when I was finger painting something. I got this all over my face, and when I got my hair up, and I'm going out there like the Tasmaniac
Oh yeah.
or the Tasmanian Devil, Like I go out there gibbering and jabbering like the Tasmanian devil. Like the kids are terrified. Either they can love me or they're terrified. Either
Oh man.
ways. Like I just remember this one fair show where I walk out there, all I do is look at the kids and like five of them start running to their parents, and I was like, I'm gonna troll these kids this whole show. And then halfway through my match, I roll out of the ring and I start charging the barricade and I nearly jump over it and they're running away again. And then after my match is over, I go to the back and I'm waving over at Frank, who's at the what's the word? The music table or the sound table. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, start recording. And he pulls his phone out. He records me as I go straight from the entrance, turn around the corner while a match is going on, and I scare the piss out of these kids again.
Oh man.
It's the best. It's honestly the best. And
That is something.
yeah, it's awesome. I experimented a lot that first year. Like it started with me just being in a straitjacket, and then it went from me being in a straitjacket while also painting my hair green or blue or red or green, orange, and red. Like I would get these bottles of just day-long hairspray, and I would spray my hair up in different colors. And when I go out there, I look like a walking piece of art that
I love
someone
it.
that some kid drew up. And,
Oh man.
and then later, like I started coming out with Swedish fish hanging out of my mouth or a gummy worm. I mean, I had great people that I was working with at the time because uh, one of my one of my best friends in this business, his name is Tyler Sullivan. He used to go by Tyler Sunday, the ice cream man. But he worked alongside Kevin Sullivan for a few months, and he became this, creepy, deranged character just like me, and we were just brothers tag teaming back and forth all over the place. And my best part about it was just he would put a collar around me and walk me to the ring, usually guiding me with a little gummy worm or a Swedish fish, and it was stupid. It was fun, and it worked. It was the best. And then when I finally turned face, it didn't take them long to start enjoying what I had to offer because people like it. Like you hear all the time on certain wrestling shows, specifically if you go to televised wrestling events like TNA or MLW, every now and then you'll have that one fan who's like, bite him, twist his nipples. Like, but you never see him
That's me.
do it. And I'm just like, why not? Why not? I do it.
That's me.
Yeah.
I'm that guy.
Yeah. So like now when I go out there, it just feels right. And it's so much fun doing what I do.
That's awesome. I love it when people get as much enjoyment out of it that you are, because I know I enjoy watching it. Like you mentioned that type of fan that yells that stuff. I'm legit that guy. Like I will find those moments where like the crowd has just died down a little bit and then I'll just yell out something completely random. Like I one time got Mike Bennett at a show where I forget. Oh, it was one of those moments where it was like it had just died down just a moment, and I, with the Undisputed Kingdom, I couldn't help myself. I just yelled out, "Adam!" And you could see that him looking like. And then I talked to him after the show, and he's like, "Dude, you popped the hell out of me." I'm like, "Yes."
Yeah. I have a similar moment of that. So I was doing a tryout for the Road Dog. He was doing not a tryout, a seminar. He was doing a
That's Mark.
and I had to wrestle a match against a couple of people, but one of which ended up becoming Tony D'Angelo in NXT.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, I worked him long before he was Tony D'Angelo. But we had a tag match, just me and this guy I trained with named Mav Boone. It was me and him in a 2 minute long tag team match against the guy who would become Tony D'Angelo and a Milwaukee regular. His name was Pit Stain. He's part of the Foley brothers. Anyways, we just had a short 2 minute match. My goal in that match was just to get myself over as a crazy, demented freak. I didn't care what happened. I'd take the finish. I'd do whatever you guys need me to do. And I did just that because as soon as the match was over, the only time in that seminar, Road Dogg got in the ring and showed us something that was done wrong. Wasn't anything I did, wasn't anything my partner did. It was something one of the other two had done. But what I popped on was as soon as Road Dogg gets in the ring, he points at me and he goes, "Come here, you crazy MFer." And I'm like, "Yes, I got him." And then I spoke to him afterwards, and he just gave me all this advice on how I can evolve my character. And he said, "You don't have to work on a thing. You just have to evolve what you're doing because this, what you're doing right here, is great, but it's amateur. I need you to be bigger. Like, what about this would you want to see on TV?" And that was the advice I stuck with. And every time I talk to people who either have TV or been on TV, they always tell me, you just got to take it a little bit higher. And the few that haven't given me that yet, they're just like, "We're waiting for a spot for you."
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. I love it when, it's not like it was back in, when I was growing up, when I first started watching wrestling back in the dating myself, the 80s.
Yeah.
And, you'd hear stories about the guys back then that it's like that wanting to keep your spot sort of thing and not really helping out, giving of advice. So when you have people out there that are doing that for the people coming up that haven't gotten to the TV level yet, that's always awesome. Now,
Yeah.
I gotta ask, so because you brought up, you've been heel and you mentioned becoming face. Now, what I noticed at specifically Brew City Wrestling, there's a storyline where the what damn it, I didn't put down his name. Oh, Gunnar Wicks. That
Yeah.
Wicks. Okay, I wanted to make sure I wasn't pronouncing that wrong because I always feel awkward when that happens. But from what I was able to gather, it was like he took you out, and then you came back, and there was a match that I believe just recently happened.
Yes, that was just recently this last Saturday. So here is the story going forward. And first and foremost, Gunner's a piece of crap, and I'm not gonna give him anything good. But basically, months and months ago, let's say July, he and I, uh, he and I tag teamed. We were the tag team known as Killer Instinct. We held multiple tag team championships. And then just after I had defended what was the Brew City Wrestling Elks Lodge belt, because our home shows are all at the Elks Lodge in Waukesha. So we decided to create one of our championships in favor of the Elks Lodge because they were they've been our home location for
Yeah,
for
that that
well
little way of
over 8 years.
yeah,
Like,
that little way of showing appreciation for the people there that have supported the promotion. Definitely.
after I had just finished, defending the belt, my former tag team partner comes out and he spears me. I thought of that as just the most disrespectful thing possible. And then after that, we fought. And he broke a chair over my head, and then the following month we had a first blood match. Whoever lost had to leave Brew City Wrestling, and I busted him open with my bare teeth, but the referee was down, and next thing you know, he's got me down, and he's wiping his entire face full of blood. He's wiping his head and he's rubbing it all over my face. And when the referee
Mm.
stands up, the ref sees me, and now I'm gone. I was gone from August all the way through January. Like I was gone for that long, and it really bothered me. And I, uh, I put a mask on. I put a couple layers of clothing on, and I attended that January show. And I
Mm.
decided to give him a piece of my mind after his match was over. And then Frankie, being as supportive as he's always been, decided to give me a chance. If I won the match that I would recently just had this Saturday against him, I would be reinstated at Brew City Wrestling, which let's just say was the greatest feeling ever.
I can imagine when you have a story, like you have a thing going like that, and as far as typical fans loving the face, you you want to see them get their revenge, and to have a situation like that, you're definitely giving the fans something to go home happy about there, because it did seem in some of the videos that I was seeing leading up to that particular match that it was like, oh, okay. I initially had the heel vibes, watching some of your stuff, and then seeing the build up to the match that just happened. I'm like, okay, okay, they're really getting behind him here. They want to see this happen. I'm loving it.
Yeah. That was an absolute shocker. Like, as soon as I walk out there for the first time ever, I had like three or four kids with signs all saying, "We want Chucky back. Chucky wins or we riot." And I was like, that's surprising. I couldn't believe it. And I
um,
was so happy in that moment. That was just so great. And the best part was to end the match out, we got to bring back one of our long
mm,
distant brothers. International referee Dan Perch. He he works for GCW and all those bigger up companies. He works super hard for everything he's doing. I I would not doubt for 1 second that he will get signed at some point. He is the hardest working referee I've ever seen.
yeah, that was awesome. I did see him getting to be back there for that. That's awesome. And
Yeah. And the fact that he got to come back just for something like that, it meant the world to me.
oh, I can imagine, especially for something like that. Now, another place that I wanted to talk about that coincidentally I'm seeing, it looks like you got the logo right there. ICW North.
But it's also ICW Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, they're both the same, but ICW North hasn't really happened yet. Uh,
Yeah. I did notice that that was kind of just getting in the process of getting going there. Yeah.
so, Insane Championship Wrestling Milwaukee, run by Milwaukee Deathmatch legend Dysfunction. Uh, he he's been running ICW for a long time now, and he's gone back and forth between different venues. It started at La Pica Lounge Car, from my understanding. I mean, I started working for him when he was running at a place in West Dallas called Tanner Paul. That was an awesome venue. But and then they ended up selling the venue, so we ended up going to a place that we now call home, which is called Da Bar. I'm not
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not joking about that. It's literally spelled DA bar. And and then yeah, just recently he asked me if I would work for his ICW North show on a certain date, and I was like, "Sure. Another ICW booking? Why the heck not? I love working for ICW. It's so much fun." And the best part is he's just got some IWTV deals, so we get some exposure out of him.
Nice.
And but he brings in good talent. He brings in, hardworking talent, like guys like Eric Dillinger,
Mm,
Public Enemy number one. He got his
that's
I'd say he got his big break working for Dis because I didn't see him working these big higher up deathmatch companies. I didn't see him doing that until after he made his first appearance at the ICW Insane 8.
Oh yeah, I had him on. Oh God, it was probably back more towards summer, and
Awesome dude.
oh,
He's such a
no,
nice guy.
nothing but great things to say about him. It was funny because I had forgotten that we had scheduled his recording for the night that he had a show, and then I'm reaching out, at the time we were going to get ready to start. And he's like, oh, my match is just getting ready. We would be able to hold up just a little bit. And then I'm like, okay, yeah. And then I see, oh, wait a minute. This is on IWTV. Holy shit. So I turned on and I literally get to watch the match right before I talk to the guy.
Yeah,
And what makes it even more special is the guy that he was facing that night was one of my favorites from when I was stationed out in San Diego. He was, he's getting more back out there, but the New Age Puncher B-Boy, he
absolutely.
had them in a match, and we were we're wrapping up, and I didn't know this at the time, but B-Boy was getting ready to walk right by. It was like, Eric was like, hey, I know you were talking about this guy earlier. Pulls him in, and he remembered me from back then. So it was like,
Yeah,
holy shit, dude, made my damn night.
absolutely.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
oh,
Eric's one of those good guys. He's always been super cool. He's always been just like the most humble guy I know.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
and me being, it sounds like ICW right there, very much up my alley. The like I saw on the poster for the ICW North Show, rated R wrestling. That's my type of stuff.
Yeah.
Because hell, I've
Yeah,
had some.
Dysfunction always had, rated R wrestling, and if I'm being honest, before I debuted, or specifically before I even was Chucky, I was intimidated as heck about his show because all I saw on it was just all the deathmatch wrestling and everybody getting busted open and the thumbtacks everywhere and the glass everywhere, and I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. And then 2020 came around, and after everything started opening up after the pandemic, he contacts me out of the blue and he's like, would you be willing to team with your boy Gunnar Wicks at my next show because I want to open it back up? You could be on my pre-show. And I was like, okay. I didn't say it to him, but in my mind I was like, please don't let it be a death match. And I'm more wise about certain shows, and I know that's not how it works. But back then, I was such a wimp, and nowadays I love this stuff. Nowadays, I love this stuff. Um, but yeah, 2020 was my first time working for him, and I've been working for him ever since.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
And
Diz has always been cool with me,
oh yeah.
and he's put me against some pretty awesome people over the years. I'll get to that in a second. I feel like I need to let you finish your.
Yeah, no, I was just mentioning, I'm very much a fan of that style of, deathmatch style.
Yeah,
I've been lucky enough to have a bunch of people that, people talking about Mount Rushmores of this wrestling or that. A bunch of the people that I would consider on a list for my deathmatch one, I've had on, like John Wayne Murdoch. I've had him on twice. I had his often tag partner Reed Bentley on. I've had Alex Colon, the Blood Fighter. He even sent me signed ring worn kick pads of his.
haven't had a chance to meet Alex Colon yet. Yet he's been on a bunch of shows that I originally was supposed to be on, but I had to cancel for other reasons.
I've been lucky enough to get to meet him on a handful of occasions for Sammy Callahan's promotion Revolver.
Ah,
Got to go to a bunch of their Des Moines stops, which Des Moines only like 2.5 hours away from me. So I get to go there pretty often. So they got to meet him there, and he remembered, I guess being my own worst critic sometimes, when people say they remember me from this or that, I'm always like, oh, wow, I'm quite flattered by that. But then when somebody of the stature of Alex Cologne remembers me from, it had been a while since he'd been on, it was like,
Must have done
oh,
something.
I guess. I remember one time, going back to the figure collecting, he's big into that. I don't know if a lot of people know that about him, but he had been looking for, let me see if I have this back here. I do. Back when this first came out, the Target exclusive Darby Allin with the
Nice.
with a skateboard and all that. He was looking for it. And I'm like, dude, the Target right by me has about 5 of them. So
Hmm.
he's like, dude, would you send me one? I went and got another one and sent it to him. So, yeah, I've been lucky. Oh God, I was just
Yeah.
remembering that. I don't know why. Madman Pondo.
Oh.
I gotta have him.
Oh, that guy. Okay.
He gave me one of the more memorable intros that I had because, yeah, it was crazy, but I loved
Dare I ask, what did he do?
it. He started yelling about if you're not watching the show, then you go and rip your larynx out.
You
And I'm
know
like,
what? That sounds like him.
yeah. I've had some memorable intros from, like, oh, if you remember Lucha Underground.
Oh, of course. I loved watching that. I'm beyond disappointed it's not running anymore.
I've had a handful of people on there. The two most, I guess, most notable would have been the former champion Marty the Moth. That was fun.
He's on my bucket list.
That
Marty the Moth Martinez, I either want to team with him or I want to work him.
that
One way or the other.
you two together, that would be a fun one.
I know. That's what I want.
And then the other one, which I remember him even before Lucha Underground, when it was, oh God, some of the promotions that I started watching independent wrestling with when I was, stationed with the Navy in San Diego. Famous B. You know how he had that kind of like a cheesy car salesman sort of
Yep, I know who you're
thing,
talking about.
where he'd be like, I forget the numbers, but it was something like 423 get fame. And I remember in my head thinking, man, this I'm not gonna ask, but man, it would be cool as hell if he did that during his intro.
Yeah.
And without me asking, he did it. Like, he just went into it, and like, I didn't want to like fanboy out, but like, I'm just trying to keep my composure. But like, deep inside, I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, he did it.
Yeah.
Man, that was so I've been lucky. Now,
Yeah. Back when Lucha Underground was big, Frank he had a thing for bringing in guys that worked for Lucha Underground. He brought in a bunch of people. Like long before I started, he was bringing in the Hardys. He was bringing in Gallows and Anderson, and now known as the War Raiders. Uh,
mm,
let's see.
two of my favorites right now, War
Yeah,
Raiders, love them.
yeah. Um, I think to date his most memorable past show uh, included Matt Hardy, the War Raiders, Gallows and Anderson, and Penta, which
Oh,
I was surprised. I was very surprised to know that he had booked Penta, and then I saw him all over the poster. And I was like, oh, geez, he actually brought Penta in for a show, and he had a ton of shows where he kept bringing legends in. And I was super pumped when I found out that I'd get to work a couple because I did. And let's see, the first one was actually because of a cancellation or something. I
Okay.
think I was supposed to work someone else that night, but because somebody canceled, we were doing a show for the Wisconsin State Fair, and Frankie had brought in his old buddy Rhino, the War
Mm.
Machine ECW legend Rhino.
Oh yeah.
He was coming in for this show, and the year prior, he had brought in guys like not George the Animal, sorry, Greg Valentine
Ah.
and the Honky Tonk Man with Jimmy Hart. Yeah,
Ah.
he brought those guys in and they worked the tag match. That was the first time I had ever gone with them to the state fair. I was doing security at the time. The following year um they brought in Brian Pillman Jr. And
Mm.
to my surprise, this was his like second or third match at the time,
Really?
which I was so surprised to hear. He worked like as if he had been doing this for years, but I guess it's his dad's heritage.
He,
And then that year he put me and my partner at the time, Baxter Belafonte, put me and him against Dysfunction and Rhino. And Dis and Rhino had worked multiple times over the years because Dis had actually brought Rhino in for a couple of his old shows. Um, but yeah, those two teamed against me and Baxter, and I got to take the gore, and it was gnarly, very gnarly.
I can imagine. I've heard some stories about some other people that have taken it, and I will say this: when it comes to Rhino, it seems like anybody that I've talked to that has worked with him does not have a bad word to say about him.
No, absolutely not. He was a comedian in the locker room.
I've heard that about him.
Yeah, I all I did was ask him, I think I walked up to him when he had a split moment when fans weren't asking him for autographs and stuff. So I went up to him and I just asked him like, "You've been all over the planet. What was your most fun? Like which company did you have the most fun in? ECW, TNA, WWE, anywhere. Just tell me where do you think you've had the most fun?" And he was just like ECW easily. And then we talked a little bit back and forth about that. And this was before our match, mind you. And I thought I was being a mark at the time. I was just trying to ask him a question. But once it was all said and done and the fans started showing up, I skedaddled because, kayfabe. But when I came to the back, I was like, darn it, was I being a mark right there? I don't know if I want to present myself that way. And then 5 minutes later, I got Matt, Beer City Bruiser, coming up to me. He's like, "What did you do? Rhino's excited to work you now." And I'm like, "What?" He wants to give you the gore in a good way. And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know if I should be happy or scared." Well, we had the match and it was great. And afterwards, we shook hands. We were very happy with the match. He was very happy with the match, and my trainer Bruiser, he was watching the match if I remember correctly, and he was just like, "You turned around and took that gore at the perfect moment. We wanted you to turn at exactly the moment you did." And and then sure enough, I think it was later that year, no, 2 years later, I got the privilege to work one on one with the Vampire Warrior Gangrel, which was
Ooh.
a highlight of my career at that time. I've gotten a lot better since that match, but I like going back on it because it was a lot of fun and it was really cool to just put a match like that together with someone like Gangrel. For a guy who's been in the business as long as he has, he really hasn't lost a beat. He works long matches just like as if I was working, a 10-year vet or something.
That you know what, I have noticed that about him because I see some matches even recently, and it's like, man, he can still go.
Yeah, he's huge, but he keeps moving almost like a cruiserweight, and
That
it's amazing.
that is awesome. Now, I got two categories here that I kind of round stuff off with. First is a bit of a name game, and I tried to theme it towards the guests as much as possible. Where Wisconsin, I figured each of these people I looked up, pro wrestlers from Wisconsin, and it's always tricky figuring out, who somebody is going to remember because I have had times where people are like, I don't remember that guy, but I have a good feeling these people were good here, to say the least.
Yeah.
So first one, I I got reintroduced to him through toy hunt vlogs, that he's done with different people like Ethan Page or
Ah.
the major wrestling figure podcast guys. But I'm talking about Hornswoggle.
Oh, Swoggle. Yeah, he was on the show that I was a part of on Saturday. He was wrestling the mouth of the Midwest JP in a fans bring the weapons match, and that was something.
I can imagine. He is still quite the entertaining dude for sure.
Yeah, he really is.
Now, next one, I guess for this guy I had forgotten about. I I guess I thought he was from somewhere else. But, when I talked about my story about Mike Bennett, I yelled out the phrase I yelled out came from this guy, Roderick Strong.
Ooh, ooh, that's a name right there. Guy works he works very technical matches. I like watching his matches because he always has a thing for working the back. And I've also noticed that he before Walter got to NXT, Roderick Strong was the one with the most lethal chops in NXT.
Yeah.
And you know that much just by looking at Daniel Bryan from the Greatest Royal Rumble. Like he
Mm.
just had a few chops going off against Roderick Strong, and his chest looked like minced meat for the rest of the show.
Oh yeah, those are some good ones. Yeah, I don't know. I like that he's able to mix the technical style, but the way he even recently the last year or so with the kind of that little bit of the comedic timing with the yelling out Adam,
Yeah,
different stuff like that. It just I know the first time I heard it, it kind of took me by surprise, and then I'm like, dude, this is funny.
yeah.
Now, next up, I'm okay. I got to warm myself up here with this one because when saying this guy, I feel like I have to say it this way. And I'm talking about Ken Anderson.
Uh,
Anderson.
Mr. Anderson. I didn't get to work on the show, but I did meet him once uh for a show out in Waukesha. I think he was teaming with Chris Masters on the show. I didn't get to speak to him that long, but I did get to shake his hand and introduce myself. He seemed like a very down to earth person, very nice guy. I didn't, like I said, I didn't really get to have a conversation with him, but I always really enjoyed watching his matches. They seemed unique.
That is a good way to describe it. And the way he would introduce himself was very unique because you don't
Hasn't been repeated because
it,
no
it,
one can repeat it.
yep, nobody can do it quite like he did, so no use in repeating it, right?
Nope.
All right, last but not least, a guy that I definitely want to meet, and he's so entertaining, and talking about some big guys, he's a big guy, Otis.
Otis. Oof. Yeah, that guy definitely presents himself as a likable, you know, comedic wrestler, but I I've seen his stuff from NXT, and there was this one show. It wasn't a live TV NXT taping. It was just a house show at the Turner Hall Ballroom. And I'm gonna talk a little story about this. So
Okay.
we uh we went to this show. I thought we were going to help out, but since Frank knows Steve Carino and such, he got us some tickets to this event, ringside tickets nonetheless. So
Nice.
Frank didn't want them, so he gave them to me. So I'm sitting at ringside, right next to Dysfunction, believe it or not, and I think the semi-main. I know the main event was Velveteen versus Tommaso Ciampa, but the semi-main was the Undisputed Era, specifically Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, and Adam Cole versus Heavy Machinery, Tucker and Otis, and Ricochet.
Mm,
Well, Otis already showed how likable he was because he came out in an old Green Bay Packers jersey. I don't remember who was on the jersey that he was wearing. I believe it was someone who had passed away. I
mm.
I don't remember the name. I'm not good with football, but I know that alone got a pop from the people, and that their backstage promo was entertaining as heck. Like, it starts with Tucker and Otis in Green Bay Packers jerseys, and then Ricochet shows up because he's teaming with them, and they pull out a cheese hat and put it on Ricochet. And they come out to the ring that way, and that's all it took, and they were the biggest baby faces of the show.
Nice. Nice. I
Yeah.
I do remember getting to go to one NXT house show that they did here in Omaha, and I not all of those guys were there. I'm trying to remember if Heavy Machinery was on that one. I do remember Adam Cole though, and I somebody had a fitness gimmick, and they had a water bottle in the corner. They go to take a drink, and the crowd died down, and that whole goofball thing of me, I yell out, "Water sucks. Gatorade's better." And then I got the crowd
Water
to.
sucks. It really, really sucks.
I literally got the
Water.
crowd to chant that.
Yeah.
It was like, yes. And the guy looked at me and he was like pointing, like, "You motherfucker." Loved it. But one of the things that I love going back to Otis is, he does seem quite like that big teddy bear sort of a guy.
Yeah.
But he's proven lately with, the whole thing with Gable that, you push him enough, he can let you know what's going on.
Absolutely.
And I
Um,
love that about him.
yeah. And his in-ring capability is much better than they present him as on TV, in my opinion.
Oh
Because
yeah.
when I saw him in NXT, he was more than just the guy who got the hot tag and did all the cool moves because he was presented that way. He was proven to be a big guy, but a big guy that could move and work an actual match without the need of pulling out, the worm. I mean, he
Yeah,
still brought it out, but he didn't need that to work a match.
gotcha.
I don't know. I feel like they need a better way of presenting him because he's capable of a lot more than they give him. But
Oh
that's
yeah.
my opinion. That's just my opinion.
Oh no, I definitely agree with you. All right, now I have some random questions. Some might be wrestling related, some might not be. Some have nothing to do with anything we've talked about so far.
Okay.
So, first one, craziest in match moment for you.
Okay. That's probably gonna be about two or three different things. I'll try and keep it down to two.
Okay.
Uh, First one was during that first year I told you about where I said I was experimenting.
Yeah.
I actually managed to catch Beer City Bruiser off guard, and he'll confirm with you about this if you ask him, because this is the only moment I remember 100% from that first year. Like I said, I was experimenting and I was teaming with Tyler Sullivan at the time. He he was guiding me to the ring in using gummy worms or Swedish fish. So and I also wrestled Bruiser a lot during my first 2 years. And I cherish every second of it because it made me better. I enjoyed my matches a little more because of that. Um, but this exact moment always makes me laugh whenever I think back on it, and just because it made everybody weirded out. So we get to the match. Match starts. We're circling the ring. Bruiser takes a sip of his beer and then spits it in my face. We didn't call it in the back, but I knew how to work on the fly. And I roll out of the ring and I go over to Tyler. He's like, just wait, I got a gummy for you. He pulls out a gummy worm and he's like, get in the ring. I slide in the ring and Tyler has the gummy worm. He slides in the ring too because he was my manager. And he basically pauses the match for a second. He goes, wait! And he goes up to Matt, who's got beer and sweat all over himself. And Tyler goes up and takes his gummy worm and he wipes it up and down his chest. And he brings it over to me and he was gonna say, like, Chucky, I want you to sniff it. But because I was so into my character, before he could even get a word out, he brings it over
You
to me and
ate it.
I gulped it down and he was like, oh no. Like as soon as I gulped it down, both Tyler and Matt were like, what the actual F? And I was just like, I got your scent, Bruiser! I got your scent! I got your DNA! And now I'm gonna kill you! And when we got to the back, Matt looks at me and he's just like, what were you thinking? You actually scared me for a minute. And I was like, really? Great. Now I know what to do.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's just one of them.
Yeah.
Uh,
If you want to tell another one, go ahead.
the second one, I had my mind stuck on one or a second one, one or another, but I can't really picture. Let's see. Here's a good one that just happened.
Okay.
This just happened like 2 weeks ago. I don't think it's my craziest moment, but it's definitely up there. I can't think of the other stuff, so I'll just end it with this. So I'm at a show in Chicago called Zawa Live. Zawa Pro
I know those guys. Yeah.
Yeah, they're great people, absolutely great people. And I wasn't actually booked for that show, but I told Ryan, I'm driving out there with my buddy CJ Cole that day. That's another talent I highly recommend you to get in contact with. He deserves to be on this podcast too.
Oh yeah.
I text Ryan and I'm like, "Hey man, I haven't worked for you in a while, but I'll be out there with CJ. If you got anything for me, I'll have my gear as usual. Otherwise, I'll just be another body for the ring." And like 2 days before, he's like, "Okay, you're working Matt Hatter." My buddy Matt Hatter, I've worked him a couple times. Our matches, the first time I worked him, it was meh, but the second time I worked him, it was a little better. And next time I worked him, it was a little bit better, but it was technically a squash match, so it wasn't that great. But this match was probably our best. He
Yeah.
just continuously gets better. I have to give him credit for that. He's been working hard for it. So anyways, we're working the match and I'm a heel there because they don't like me. They don't like me out there, ironically. But half of the match goes by and I think I remember like my first time crawling out of the ring. I go up to a fan at ringside who's got a Zawa sign, and I just swipe it from him, and I bite into it, and I start ripping it up and throwing it in the air. And next thing you know, I get blasted from behind, and I thought it was a work because it felt like a work punch. So I start selling it, and I'm like, "Damn it, he already forgot the spot." And then I turn to left and he's still in the ring, and then I'm like, what the hell? That little bastard! It was a fan running back to his seat.
Oh
There was a little. I
no.
turn around and there's a little fan charging back to his seat because like, oh no, I just made a mistake. Because I turn around, the kid's running back to his seat, and I just go, "That little bastard! He assaulted me! I want to press charges against that child."
Oh,
Then
that
I go up to Ryan after the show, and I'm just like, "Hey, can I get a raise? Because technically, I was assaulted."
I
And I
love
didn't really think anything of it. I wasn't hurt. Everything was fine. And actually, it just made the match better because all I can do is laugh about that.
that. I love little stories like that.
The match was perfect. Well, not perfect, but it was great. The match was great, and when it was all said and done, we had fun.
That's awesome, and that's what counts.
Yeah.
I've been lucky to have a few people that have come through there. Um, Most notably, Christian Rose had I
I
had
haven't had a chance to work him yet. I've been on
uh,
a lot of shows with him, but
I'm looking forward to it. Uh, I haven't been to a show for this promotion in a while, but he's actually going to be here in Omaha here in like a week from Friday.
okay.
So, and I'm a friend invited me to sit at. They bought a table there, so they invited me to sit with them. So I'm like, ah, shit, why not? I ain't got nothing else to do.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how often he's been out there lately, but Jay Fowler.
Ah, Fowler. Yeah. I like what he has to offer. Every time I see him on a show, he's always putting on banger after banger. Uh,
It, he's definitely known for putting on those quite consistently.
yes. Yeah.
That is for
He,
sure.
he ended up working. I think his best matches that I've witnessed were against a guy who I consider to have my best match ever with, Joey Avalon.
Ah, yes,
Yeah.
I remember him quite well. It's been a little bit since he's been down this way, but I do remember quite entertaining guy. Definitely hard hitting. I love it.
Absolutely. I love Joey. He's helped me so much in the last couple of years. So I think it was 2022. He and I worked our first match at one of the bigger shows of the year for MIAW. He was the current reigning champion, and we had what was to my date, it was my best match ever. And then quite a few months later, we ended up working again, and we main evented Crusher Fest, something I never thought I'd be able to do. Because when I started, the first year they had Crusher Fest, when they unveiled the statue, I was just in a
Mm.
battle royale. Then they put me in a tag match where I actually teamed with Joey, but I messed up a spot, and I thought that was it. But the following year, they brought me in and I opened Crusher Fest against Coda Jacobs. That was over. And then the next time Crusher Fest came around, it was me and Avalon for the main event of night one. And that remains to be my best match ever. And then we also worked, I think, third to main Crusher Fest night two, which is easily my second best match ever. I've had
Awesome.
a lot of matches that come right below there in the
Yeah.
last couple of years, specifically with guys like Zach Hendricks and guys like Jaden Mercer and even Gunnar Wicks, but just nothing really tops my two Crusher Fest matches with Joey Avalon.
Oh, that and Pressure Fest. I mean, I'm okay. Words are hard again. I love getting to learn about different places and new stuff. And from what I've come to understand over the lifetime of the podcast, Pressure Fest is quite the big deal. And that's awesome to get to say that you main evented a night of that.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
it was great. Absolutely the best, easily my best experience in wrestling thus far.
That's awesome.
Uh,
Now we on to my next thing here. We just recently passed the Royal Rumble. Easily, and this goes for other promotions that do their versions of it, but it's easily one of my favorite events of the whole calendar year, regardless of WWE or whatever promotions doing their version of it. But as far as like the WWE Royal Rumble, lots of people have like favorite moments, whether it be somebody going, from number one and winning it, or whatever it might be. What is the favorite Royal Rumble moment that you have?
Just thinking about it earlier today. I have a couple, um, but I'll keep it very short.
Okay.
I think my first one would easily be Rowdy Roddy Piper returning at, I think it was the 2008, 2010. I don't know. It had to be 2008. Whichever Rumble it was where Cena came out at number 30. That was an awesome moment, but I I loved Roddy Piper's music and just the surprise that he showed up. And
Oh, yeah.
that's my biggest critique about current Rumble matches. Like, when was the last time we had a legend return at the Rumble?
That is true.
We need more of that. That's what made the Rumble so popular for the last decade.
Yeah, surprise entrance into the Royal Rumble have kind of gone meh lately. I mean, this year had a couple, no like legends, but like, I mean, one of my favorite returns at a Rumble, and it was more for the look on his face when he came out there.
I think I already know who you're talking about.
Edge's return.
That was gonna be my second one. That was gonna be my second one because I was never a really big Edge fan. I mean, I watched his matches day in and day out, but I was never, the biggest Edge fan. But when he came out, made me a believer for a few minutes.
Oh
Like,
man.
my God, that was such a shocker.
Oh yeah. And like the look on his face, it was like he was telling you he never in a million years expected he would be back in there doing that.
Absolutely, yeah.
And
And not just that moment, but that whole Rumble match was really entertaining to watch. Like, I'd say it was probably the best Rumble in a long time.
oh yeah.
Let's see, like they had all the NXT call-ups, like Keith Lee going square to square with Brock Lesnar. You had MVP returning. That was something. And
Oh
then
yeah.
you had Drew McIntyre eliminating Lesnar. Like, what bigger pop of the night besides
Oh.
Edge's return?
Oh yeah.
There was nothing bigger than that moment.
Although two of my personal favorite Rumble moments, I've actually got to watch. Well, one's kind of two in one because they involve the same sort of deal. But one of them I actually just got to watch recently, and I forget what year, but it involved Jake the Snake and Andre the Giant, where on Jake, I think Andre had eliminated Jake, but Jake had gotten eliminated, and he comes back
With the snake.
with the snake, scares Andre to where he climbs over the top rope, eliminates himself.
Yeah, I
and goes
remember
back.
that.
Love
That was something.
that's one of my favorites, and the other two involve like some of the quickest eliminations. One involving one of the bushwhackers, where it was like, he just walks in and then they just
He walks in, does his march, and then he gets eliminated and still does his march. That's always a funny moment.
that. And when Santino came in, and it was like he walks in and was like, and then Kane just over the top.
I wasn't ready.
Yeah. Oh man, those are easily some of my favorites for sure.
I don't get why they keep trying to repeat that. Like, no one's gonna beat Santino's record.
Oh no,
You can't. It's literally impossible. You can't.
Oh yeah.
Unless they got rid of the ropes, they're never going to. They're never gonna top that half a second Rumble.
The only way I could think they might come close, and it would literally have to be number 1 and 2, where they haven't technically rang the bell, so the match hasn't technically started, and somebody sneaks up behind number one, and he doesn't see him yet, so the all of a sudden the bell rings right over. That would be the only way I could see it happening. Who knows? All right.
Yeah.
I am not known to be a very picky eater at all, but I still have some of my foods that I just, nope. What is the least favorite food of yours?
I have tried time and time again to enjoy this food, but I can't bring myself to, and that's just sadly anything that has to do with fish. I'm not a fish eater. I tried it while it was deep fried. I tried it while it was raw. I tried it while it was in a salad. I tried everything you can try when it comes to fish, whether it's tuna salad sandwiches or anything else. I just can't enjoy it. I hate the taste. I hate the look. I hate the smell. The only thing that is considered seafood that I can actually eat is if it's very well done shrimp. And even then, I dip it in a crap ton of sauce so I can't taste it.
I tend to do that with shrimp as well.
Yeah. I
But
know I'm probably taking a lot of people off by saying that, but I
no,
cannot like fish. I've tried so hard to actually like it, but I can't.
yeah.
I really can't.
Even deep fried, like, okay, I don't exactly hate fish. It's not my first choice, but deep fried, it can be hit and miss. Sometimes it gets done okay. Other times you're like, oh God, this is awful.
Yeah.
And oh God, there's just some places where it's like it's doable and I'll be fine, and other places it's like no, I'm not. No.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to work at a burger joint called Murph's, Frozen Custard and Burgers. It was run by one of my dad's college buddies, so he gave me the job right away. Um, Fridays we would always have the fish fry Fridays.
Mm.
He would have a deal where you could order three fries in a basket with fries, coleslaw, rye bread, and all that. But usually during the week, the only fish he would sell on his menu are like a fish fillet sandwich about yay big. It's not really that big, but all I would have to do is just deep fry them and then throw them on the grill, and then they would put them on a bun. But as for the cod fish sticks, I tried one of those fish sticks once, and it didn't taste good.
It-
It tasted. I don't know what the heck to say about it. It
yeah,
didn't taste right, and
yeah.
it was cooked to perfection, is what they told me. But I couldn't bring myself to like it, so I never
It,
ate it again.
it can be hit and miss. I know for me personally, and my family gives me shit about this. Even my little nieces give me crap about it. But peas by themselves, like,
I'm a little different on that. I actually like peas by themselves. I mean, personally, I've had some occasions where I'll just cook up peas as a side, and then I'll just top it with some salt and butter, and then I'll just eat
yeah.
that. Like I'll just throw a tiny dab of butter on there, let it melt into the peas, and then spread some salt on them, and I'll just eat them as a side dish.
And you know what? I'm always open to trying different ways. I know my wife has gotten me to try different vegetables that I
But
hated before, but it's just the way she prepared them. I've loved them since.
yeah,
Maybe that'll be the same way for peas. I don't know. Right now, if they're
I know it's easier to eat peas when it's mixed up with like corn and stuff.
that for me, when peas are mixed into like chicken pot pie or something, it's like okay, that's fine. There's other stuff mixed in there. I can deal with that. But for
Yeah,
some
my
reason,
favorite is if you've ever gone to Olive Garden, I highly
mm,
recommend the what is it, the chicken Alfredo. They mix peas in with the Alfredo.
ooh, that
And
that that would be doable.
really good. They also put mushrooms in there, but I always tell them to take mushrooms off because that's another thing. I can't stand mushrooms. There's only one, but the only reason I put it beneath seafood or fish food is because there's only one instance where I actually could commit to eating a full mushroom, and that was my one of my aunts. She knows how to make a really good stuffed mushroom with good cheese.
Ah,
Uh, I can't remember if it was cottage cheese or goat cheese, but she cooked them with the cheese in them, and I
yeah,
had so many that night I couldn't stop eating them. But
yeah.
otherwise, I'm always taking the mushrooms off of anything, whether it's pizza, whether it's pasta. I'm always pulling mushrooms off of stuff.
I can understand you there. All right, now my wife and I we have both of these at our house, dogs and cats.
Hmm. I got a cat, just a cat.
Okay, because I was about to ask, dog or cat person?
I'm a cat person, but I love dogs. Like I'm not a cat or a dog person. I love both. I
Love
just
both.
I am just in the household where I am only owning a cat.
I get you there. I know me. I'm definitely both. I love both. I love all of our pets we got at the house, but I'll admit I've always leaned more towards being a more of a dog person. But it's weird because we got one cat that loves the shit out of me. Like literally, will I'll be laying down and he'll come up and start using my beard as a pillow, and then all but like two, maybe three of the dogs that we've had since being together have all gravitated more towards my wife, and she's more of a cat person. So it's
Yeah.
just weird, and I kind of lovingly give her shit about it. It's like Jesus, I'm more of the dog person, but all our dogs seem to love the hell out of you.
Yeah. I used to, well, years ago, I volunteered at the Wisconsin Humane Society, so I'm always an animal person.
Mm.
I know more about dogs and cats than I do anything else, so don't ask me to like watch your guinea pig or something because I'm not good at that. But, I've been a socializer and I've also been a foster home for cats and dogs. For
My
it's
wife,
actually how I got my fourth cat, I believe. Because at the time, I believe this was like 2016, 17. Um, we only had our gray Maine Coon, which we called Rocky, and we were fostering for the Wisconsin Humane Society and for this other place where people who could not own their cats anymore would send to us. And we got this orange tabby cat, and we called him. He was called a lot of. He wasn't called a lot of things. He was just he had a long name, and we just decided to rename him. We called him Mo. Everybody called it short for Moses, but I knew we were only calling him Mo as in short for Moron. Because he was an orange tabby cat. He was annoying to everybody but me. Like like everybody in my household was just like that is one annoying cat. And I was just like I don't know what you mean. I get it that he can be loud from time to time, but I don't see what the problem is.
yeah.
He loved me because I was the one who took care of him. He was one of those cats that sadly got declawed, so he
Mm.
couldn't do a lot of things. But him and our current alpha cat Rocky, they got along very well. It was we had both of them for a while, and then they both just got old.
Mm.
But the ride was very much enjoyable. And that cat
Oh yeah,
was a
that's
very good cat. We
that's
now have a we now have a Siberian cat, and we call him Vito.
ah
Yeah, a
I
big hairy cat meant for the winter.
yeah. Now, all right. Next question. With the name of a show like I have, I feel like I have to ask this. Favorite drink, alcoholic or otherwise, or hell, both if you want.
Uh, Well, easily my favorite alcoholic drink would be if we're going shots, Mr. McGillicuddy's cherry. 'Cause
Ooh, that sounds delicious.
I love the sweetness of the cherry liquor. Or
That sounds absolutely delicious.
yeah, but other than that, there's a there's this one distillery that I work for one show a year out in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, and they trade, merchandise like T-shirts for full bottles of their booze. And so I gave them one of my T-shirts, and they're like, "We've got 3 jugs over here of, homemade liquor. Which would you like?" And I just spotted this maple syrup flavored
Ooh,
liquor, and I was like, "Okay, let's give that a shot." Easily my favorite drink I will ever drink when it
nice.
comes to, alcohol. But if we're talking, like alcohol or just soft drinks, I always go with cream soda. Cream soda is my
Okay.
favorite.
Okay. I'm a bit of a Dr. Pepper fiend myself on the soda side, and I do enjoy the Dr. Pepper cream soda. It's freaking delicious.
Yeah. My brother's more of a Dr. Pepper fan than I am, but I don't mind Dr. Pepper.
But you know, when it comes to alcohol, I'm more of a beer guy. But unfortunately, my absolute favorite, they don't sell within like 2 hours of me, and that's Stone Cold's Broken Skull American Lager.
I have yet to try that one.
This one's delicious. I love it. I
I
actually
I drink
got
a
it.
lot of beers too, but my mains are usually just Budweiser and Miller Lite.
No, I get you there. I actually got that when I went up with my dad to my first game at Lambeau Field.
Nice.
And they happened to have a grocery store near where we were staying that sold it, and I got the last 4 pack of it. So
Oh, that's cool.
I was happy. But then, well, hell, speaking of that trip, one of my items I got from there, Reggie
Oh,
White
that's cool.
bobblehead.
Nice.
When I was playing football back in high school and stuff, I always modeled myself after him. So when,
Sweet.
when I got to get that there, that was awesome. But yeah, Dr. Pepper Fiend, more of a beer guy. That's my absolute favorite. The other one, and I believe they still only sell it in Wisconsin, but Spotted Cow.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's
That
a
stuff's
favorite amongst a lot of people
good.
down here.
I When it comes to my family, my dad, my brother, and myself, we all love it. So whenever one of us is going up to a Packer game or is up in Wisconsin for any reason, we're like, hey, bring us back some.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I I think yeah, I mentioned Dan Perch on this interview tonight, or this podcast tonight, but he was actually responsible for me having my first ever spotted cow, and I liked it. It was really good, and I
no,
still drink the stuff from
yeah,
time to time.
it's been a while since I've had myself one, so I am looking forward to the next time I'm able to.
Yeah.
All right. Last but not least here, best advice you have for anybody wanting to get into wrestling.
Hmm. Well, what I was always told was just that you always have to be respectful and specifically stay humble. Be respectful and be appreciative and especially be unselfish. And you need to sacrifice to have success in wrestling. But putting all of those together, you think about stuff like know your limitations, but also know, how good you are. Like, don't have an ego and think, oh, well, I can work just like the big time wrestlers if I was given the opportunity. No, you don't want to do that. You want to go to shows and you want to prove that you can have a basic match because if they ask you for a basic match, you want to deliver a basic match. They don't want to see guys climbing to the top and doing a frog splash within 1 minute of a match. They want to see guys put on a headlock and see how they could do it differently. They want to see guys do a scoop slam differently. They want to see basics. They don't want to see the same guy do 1,000 moonsaults and 100 front flips. They want to see, just can someone work a basic match and make it
Yeah.
mean something? And that's what I mean about, knowing your limitations. Like, short story, I went to this tryout not too long ago, and I got paired with this guy who was obviously green. He didn't know too much. I'd say he was about a year or two in the business. It's fine. I have no problem working with someone like that, but he refused to tell me that how green he was. But it's also not really my business to know that. But
Yeah.
here was my thing. When we wrestled the match, I had structured it in a way where I would only be able to get my character over within 30 seconds. The rest of the match could have gone to him. I was going to spend the rest of the match making him look good. But here's what happened. Soon as I put a lock on him, he's shoving, moving, and struggling, and he's not even selling what I'm doing for him. He's rushing, he's not being slow, he's not selling, and then when he turns the tables on me, I'm trying to sell for him. But while I'm on my way to bring my hand to my face after he drops me on my face, he picks me up and gives me a scoop slam. And then before I can even put my hand behind my back to sell my back, he's picking me up and giving me a DDT. I can't sell for someone if they won't let me sell.
Yeah, if you're
I
going
can't make,
too quick in between stuff, yeah.
I can't make you look good if you're gonna rush.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing that promoters don't want to see. They don't want to see guys who can do just nonstop spot after spot after spot. They want to see guys who can make one spot look like a billion spots. Or if anything, someone who can make one spot just expand. Like something that should take a minute, let's see them span it for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That's a better question. And just my thought process on that, like I was not happy that night because I didn't get to show anything I had to offer, and I couldn't offer anything because I wasn't able to put the guy I was working with over. But here's basically the lesson I learned from that, and that's just when you go places where you know you're going to learn, whether it be a seminar, whether it be a tryout, don't ever go in there and do the things that you could hear at home. Like, you don't want to go to a tryout. Like, say I was green and I'm told time after time after time that I have problems with rushing and that I need to slow down. I don't want to pay 50 bucks, $100 for a seminar or a tryout, go someplace and work for that seminar or tryout just for them to tell me you have problems with rushing. You have problems not slowing down. Why the heck did I just pay for that then? Because I could have just learned that from home. Someone from home could have told me. And it's just, you have to have that mindset. Like, if you're constantly being told that you need to slow down, then don't go to a tryout just yet. Perfect that first. You want to be told and critiqued on the things that you don't hear at home.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's my biggest word of advice. Don't go to places that you're expecting to learn from only to just hear critiques that you could hear anywhere else. Like, why pay money to hear the same thing that you were just told?
Yeah. No, that is very great advice there. Now, before we go, where can people find you social media wise? So if they don't already have their eyes on you, they can go ahead and get them there.
Yeah. All my social media are basically under the same name. You can look up Demented Chucky Bates or just Chucky Bates. Otherwise, my Twitter is Demented Bates. They're all pretty much the same. Otherwise, I am always posting stuff on Facebook. I am always posting stuff on Instagram. I am always posting highlights and or my matches on YouTube. You can find me anywhere there and all of the shows that I work for. You can find me at Brew City Wrestling in Waukesha, Wisconsin. Our next show will be on March 8th at the Elks Lodge. And then there's my other home show of ICW Milwaukee. Our next two shows are February 21st and 22nd at the Bar in West Allis, Wisconsin. As well as this Saturday, you can also find me at Fourth Wall Wrestling at also the Bar and in West Allis, Wisconsin. You can find me there.
All right. We'll get all of that in the description. Thank you again so much for taking the time to talk to me tonight. Best of luck out there with all those upcoming shows. You are welcome back anytime.
Thank you, buddy. I'd love to come back.
Oh, definitely. Issue with the fucking button again. Can't even get it to go. God